Sunday school leaders. We're in September now, and school has officially started, and Sunday school attendance has picked up a little bit like it usually does in September. And we're starting a new unit this week, and the unit title is Stand Strong, Building Your Life on God's Promises. This week we're looking at God's promise of faithfulness. The text will be out of Psalm 89, and the point of this lesson is that God is faithful in every circumstance. So as you teach these lessons over the next 6 weeks, why don't you think about asking this question at the end of each lesson. How would it change my life if I really believe and acted like I believed this promise? And what can I do to start acting like this? Well, our first lesson, as we've said, is on God's faithfulness. And it's probably good to define what faithfulness is. I think we know that, but we need to just make sure the class knows that faithfulness is acting right in one's relationship. It deals with integrity. It deals with keeping promises. And this lesson is so timely because we all know, we've heard the recent news reports of people who secretly wanted to be unfaithful to their spouses. It's been estimated that about 400 pastors and church leaders across the United States will probably be resigning over this data leak from this website that encouraged unfaithfulness. I know many in your class have probably experienced the pain of an unfaithful spouse, or they may have been the unfaithful one themselves. But despite the failings of a spouse and even failings of pastors, God never fails. God is always faithful, and He always keeps His promises. And so that's what we want to get across in the lesson this week. This might be a good time to list on your board, to just list some of those promises that God's made in the Bible. And just ask people what are some of the promises that they remember, and list some of those. And you might have some already listed in your notes that you can fill in as people hesitate and think about their answers. Remind your class that regardless of their current circumstance, God is faithful. He is always faithful. And it doesn't matter if they are in bad health. It doesn't matter if they're in the middle of bankruptcy. It doesn't matter if they've experienced a cheating spouse. God is faithful. God is with them. He is faithful, and He will keep His promises. Now, verses 5 through 8 in our text talks about the majesty of God, as it talks about the skies and the heavens and all of creation. Now, I am certainly not an advocate of everything that Rob Bell has published, especially in recent years. But if you will do a search on YouTube for Rob Bell and Everything is Spiritual, this is a video that we watched in church probably 6 or 7 years ago on a Sunday night. It's about an hour and 18 minutes long. I found it very captivating, and Rob goes into talking about the majesty of God and how the expanse of the universe, the greatness of how big the universe is and how small we are in comparison to all of creation. And then he goes from the macro to the micro, and he talks about those little bitty, the things we can't even see, and how all of those things have to be perfectly in balance in order to maintain life on earth. So if you've got an extra hour, you might watch that. It might give you some additional help into talking about God's majesty in this week's lesson. Now, if you think about a Bible book that is a reflection, it's a story of a husband and his faithfulness and how that reflects God and His faithfulness. And that is the book of Hosea. You know, Gomer, his wife, was a woman of character, and the character was not very good. And she was married to Hosea, and then she'd run off into prostitution, and he would go and buy her back. And that cycle went on and on. So you might consider investigating that storyline a little bit and working that into your lesson as well. So now for the question that I said to ask at the end of every lesson this 6 weeks. How would it change your life? How would it change your student's life if they really believed and acted like they believed that God is always faithful? How would that change the way they acted? And then what can we do personally to start on that course? Perhaps worry less, trust more. Perhaps learn what those promises actually are. That means we've got to be in God's Word and discover what those promises are that He's going to keep, that He's going to be faithful to. And also we need to allow God to reflect His character in our character, and that we need to be faithful in our relationships and in the promises that we make. So that's all I have for today, and I hope you have a great week, and I hope to see you Sunday.